Ryan, I can't hold on.
Oh no, Rachel! Let me help you by doing a wicked flip. Do you like my little flip? Like my little jump and tumble and clawing onto the side of this podcast? Help! Our podcast is flying away without me, Rachel. What will you do?
You gotta do it now! You gotta do it now!
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, Ryan. I'm thoroughly amused by my own joke.
What joke? There was no humor had here. You were being deadly serious. I had to come on, or else everything would just fly into space and new dangers would face us. But how about you bring us back down to gravity, back down to Earth, back down to the real stuff here, Rachel? Outside of both of us feeling awesome, how are things going in your quarter of the galaxy?
You know, it's a bit sniffly.
There's lots of colds around, and so you've got a bit of a sniffle. Well, it's okay, Rachel. Perhaps you telling everyone about the podcast and the namesake and the mission statement will help clear those sinuses up.
Oh, that's what you're gonna go with. Okay. We do a podcast. We're a husband and wife team. Australians. So, my cold isn't the only reason that my voice might sound weird to new listeners. But we are watching through the Expanse for the first time. We have covered various science fiction TV shows and more over on the Patreon.
More over on our Patreon. We do have a Patreon in which we have a humongous back catalogue of bonus material that doesn't make it to the main feed, and the material that does make it to the main feed is released there first, much earlier. So if you like what you've heard or what you're hearing and you want to get it in your ears right now instead of having to wait longer, then support us over on Patreon. Our coverage of The Expanse is on there first, so come on over. When you do, you get access to those episodes that we're head on because, again, we're releasing early, but you also get to be a part of our community Discord channel. We have a server where we have the channel for The Expanse. We talk about stuff over there. We have our group for the Babylon 5 discussions and Star Trek. Oh, Star Trek!
And there's a spoilers bit that we don't look at, so if you've seen it before...
Because we aren't spoiling ourselves with The Expanse, so you better not spoil us about it either, because we have managed to go fairly unspoiled on things. The biggest spoiler that one of you people, that's right, one of you listeners out there ruined was the casting switch up of Brian George. You know, we lost Brian George, and his character is dead now. They've pretty much confirmed it within this episode of The Expanse, but Yum Yum is the podcast name. It's our bread and butter. It's the thing that keeps us going. It's not the science fiction television shows we watch. It's actually just reminding everyone out there why Yum Yum is the name. And it's because Star Trek Discovery was a series that inspired us to podcast. It had a line of dialogue from a character at the season 2 finale that was just so out of left field, so strange, so peculiar, just so nonsensical, head-scratching, made your jaw hit the floor. All of those kind of feelings were emerging because they answered licking their lips, throwing their hair back, and sexily, breathily saying, "Yum, yum." And it was just such a silly thing to us, but we kept talking about it. And when I say we, I do mean we. Like, Rachel, you like to joke that it was just me, but be real for a second. It got into your head too. Like, that moment you and I were screaming about, and we used the podcast as a platform to keep screaming about it. Yum, yum. That made it into the script. And what do we say? Thank you.
That's what you say. And you try and get me to say it sometimes, and occasionally I oblige. But Ryan, what aspect of Yum Yum are we going to talk about?
Well, we have to know what episode of the show we're discussing first to better evaluate what was Yum Yum in The Expanse. Because The Expanse, it could have a variety of Yum Yums because it has silly lines.
It does, but it brought the sex.
It did.
It brought the sexiness. So that's the lens to which we look to The Expanse. But give us that title, that episode number, and that IMDb description that is also the description of the Blu-rays, which is not as unique as we would like.
I wish that they hired some poor intern to write descriptions whole cloth for the Blu-rays, but sadly that is not the case. Instead, they just copied whatever poor intern had to do it for the press junkets and stuff for IMDb, distribution, and so on and so on. We are talking about Season 5, Episode 6. We are now past the halfway point of the 5th season, and this episode is called Tribes, and it is rated currently 8 out of 10 on IMDb, and the plot is magnificent. Here it is, Rachel. Holden and the Rossi go on the hunt. Amos and Clarissa seek shelter on a devastated Earth. Bobby and Alex fight a desperate battle. Marco makes Drummer an offer she can't refuse. Avasarala returns to a position of power. Mwah, thank you.
That's what happened. That's the end of the episode.
Well, some of those things do happen, but it makes it sound like these are plots. Like, Holden didn't have a plot.
That's where they all end up. Not what, that's not...
The most accurate one is I guess Bobby and Alex fight a desperate battle. That's literally all they did. And yes. I guess Amos and Clarissa seeking shelter is a secondary goal to their main goal, but that is Tribes. And Tribes did have Yum Yum. Yum Yum is the thing that makes us lick our lips and throw our hair back and pull at our collars and steam comes out. And we got a hint of booby. We got a little bit of back/side booby. Like, from behind, you saw a little bit of the booby, and then from the side a little bit. You didn't get the full
Amos in his underwear.
But I'm talking about my pick. And I am a man who likes the hint of breast. You know, we don't get full breast action on this show. Rachel, I've got my fair share of hunky shirtless guys in this series. So let me savor when I get a shirtless lady. We don't get it often. We got it here, and it is Drummer's girlfriend / Howard Hamlin's wife from Better Call Saul. It's the same actress. Isn't that fun? I saw that scene. That's how we were introduced to her in this episode. Just cut to her and one of the other members of the crew in their little open relationship, just getting changed together. And I fist pumped and I said, "Let me see the nip. We've already been given nipple once from this crew. Do it again. Do it again, cowards. Amazon, free the nipple."
Yeah, I'm all for nipples.
She's all for nipples, everyone. Hence, you loved this episode because you don't even need to make it only your automatic Amos pick. It can just be your regular pick because, come on. Come on.
Yeah. It was a good time for me.
No further clarification needed. If you've watched Tribes, you know how it was a good time for Rachel. Because it's the fucking thumbnail of this episode, baby. I've decided. Bloody Amos, thumbnail for this episode. Oh, Rachel's fanning herself.
Throw down your weapons.
I don't have any weapons. That's why I'm here.
Strip then.
What?
You say you don't have any weapons? Stand where you are and strip down.
Here's my first thoughts on this episode. It was fine.
Wow.
It did the things. The more I think about it, the more I appreciate it.
I found this one to be rather enjoyable because it was mainly character focused, thematically focused, and digging into the inner workings and ideologies of people and groups. It was dense. When I was writing down the notes for this in terms of our general discussion and flicking through my handwritten notes that I was jotting down during the episode, this is kind of one of the more heady and longer ones we've had in a little while. There's just a lot to chew on here. It's actually quite overwhelming, and yet I don't think that this is an overstuffed episode. What about it left it in that fine area?
I think because I was enjoying all of the character stuff, but it felt a bit odd because it was lingering in those moments when it feels like there's more pressure to be doing stuff. So I kind of felt this uncomfortable tug because it's just like we just see Avasarala like crying in her office
Because of the devastation on Earth. And then we cut to Earth and it's just like we're having a jolly walk.
like everything's kind of just stopped, and it's just like, but everything is so like, it's kind of like, the avalanche is coming, but everybody's just standing around doing jack shit, kind of like, or just kind of taking a few steps forwards. Like nobody's running, and it's just like, why is nobody running?
What I think makes this more obvious is there are certain little plot things that are here that serve the function of we are going to be doing bigger stuff later, or there's going to be ramping up of action, but they don't do any of it in this episode. And so
No.
there's this weird lingering thing in which a part of me wants Holden's entire existence in this episode, or Alex and Bobby or Christian not to be here, because weirdly enough, they're kind of reminders of what you're discussing that's being withheld. But they are here. So like Monica, she's back and she joins the Rocinante because damn right she should.
She refuses to not be a part. She refuses to be left behind, and damn it all to hell, she's going to be a part of this plot, whether they like it or not.
She earned the right. She has been a fucking team player from the start, bulls up in her face telling her, how are you important? How have you proven your worth? Have you ever seen the shit? And she makes it a point to look him in the eye and says, yes, I have. I was in this ship, the first one to go through that ring space and encounter the unknown dangers of the universe, and I came back, motherfucker, so sit back there and listen to me. I'm Monica. I've got a story to report. And you know what I was doing? Clapping. You fucking tell this man. You fucking roast him, Monica. You get your dues. We love Monica. And Monica is a character that thus far has been in this weird zone in which what we have seen of her, what she has acted upon, what she has stood for, and what she has done, which is demonstrated here with her speech, is good. She is a good person. She is a good character. She does the right thing. There's a version of the story in which she's the hero, if you want to tell it from that point of view. She's often like Holden in a weird way, where they get themselves into more trouble because they want to do the right thing. It's just her job is that of a journalist and of a reporter, which carries from our point of view as an audience, as well as the characters in the universe, certain connotations, certain agendas carried with it. Like, is Monica a woman driven by personal ambition and ego of she's the one to break the story? Or if it's not that, it's a danger to other people because controlling information is key to success for a lot of the characters in The Expanse. Like, the suppression of knowledge to the outer, like outside of the conflict, makes a conflict not happen. So Monica's very existence is a threat to that idea, but at the same time, there's also the value of spreading information. We saw that with her in season 3. So we've already kind of talked about it a bit, but what do you feel about Monica and her implementation in this season and how she's now part of this crew?
I'm enjoying it. I'm glad that she just wrote her own invitation.
She had her bag packed.
Yeah.
She was asking where her quarters are. I'm already there.
It just makes sense. And I'm like, yep, tick, done. Proceed, Monica. Proceed. Because you are so fun to be around, but also your mod's really useful. So
she is handy. She's intelligent. She's capable. And although I like this, I love this, of course I do, the Holden material, including Monica, is very minute, but it does kind of buck up against what you were saying in your general thoughts, because Holden doesn't get anything to do, but he's on the hunt for the ship, for the proto-molecule. He's promising that there's going to be big stakes and action set pieces and consequences and, you know, moving the ball down the court, but that isn't what happens in this episode. It's just a promise of that. So when we do cut back to what else is happening in the episode, and a lot of it is just reflective character work, there is a little part of the brain that's kind of struggling with the dissonance there. Personally, I liked it. Like I said, I'd rather less Holden and less Bobby and all of that, promising that we're going to have big plots, and more the plots being promised through the character work that we got in all of these other stories. But we were discussing it a little bit last time, or one of the previous episodes. Holden. He was our protagonist. Would you still call him the protagonist?
No. It's very much shifted away from him propelling the plot. He's playing catch up. In a lot of ways, it is the antagonist has the reins now.
Marco really is dictating things. How are you with Holden having to take a back seat for a lot of the journey thus far? He's been very much a bystander.
I'm fine with it. Holden was never my favorite. And I'm glad that they have the confidence to do that. Because I feel like it would be this way in the books. Because as regular listeners know, we haven't read the books yet. But for the show to trust the ensemble at this point is good. It gets a thumbs up from me.
It definitely has broadened out to be much more of an ensemble-driven series rather than Holden is our main man and we get to have a little slice of pie of every other character. It's much more economically done, but I do have an issue with Holden being in the back seat because he is doing so little in comparison. I don't feel like he is
pulling his weight.
I don't feel like he has been allowed to have the synergy like other characters. It very much is, oh, and Holden's in the show too. He will do stuff, but he's just here as well. He's got a good head on his shoulders, but to make a comparison that we often have made throughout the run of The Expanse, but it's actually been quite some time, Space Above and Beyond comes to mind. And please, everyone, if you have not watched Space Above and Beyond and you are a fan of The Expanse, do give it a watch. There's quite a lot of DNA between these two shows. But Holden reminds me of West, the protagonist of Space Above and Beyond. Both of them were insufferable, selfish, would-be noble hero people who had to get busted down and humbled and go through quite a dark period to come out the other side as a team player. But I think a difference is West, although got sidelined in that series, I think he was still used much more actively as a member of the ensemble, while Holden, it very much feels like they have to have him here because he was the protagonist of the show. But I feel sorry in a way for Stephen Strait because he has not got to really demonstrate any of that quality acting that he's been given in previous seasons. Like, there's not a moment within season 5 thus far that I would be like, oh, that was really great of Holden. It's been stuff around Holden, like the pushing of the button thing. That was a great Fred moment, and it was a great commentary on Holden, but Holden's just been here too. And so I do have a problem. Like, the big thing is, he has a message from Naomi. It's unread. It says, in case things go bad, in case things don't work out, what do you think that message is? And he's so hesitant to read it. What does that tell you about Holden? And is it worth seeing this dragged across more than one episode?
Time will tell?
I'm asking your opinion of it right now.
I don't think so. Time will tell, but I doubt it.
You know, when we find these pricks, the ride's gonna get a little rough. You ever been in high-G maneuvers before?
Mm-hmm. On this ship. When we were the first people to go through the ring and survive.
A few weeks back now, I started a conversation about Naomi by saying I have nothing nice to say about what Naomi's going through, and it was a struggle, and we got some pushback on that. Well, I apologize now because I have nothing nice to say about Bobby in the show at all. I said it last time. I've reached the point. What a
Point of no return.
To my eyes, this has been a completely useless endeavor. What did we get? Last episode, it ended on a cliffhanger of them being stuck in space without any power and all that. To cut to this episode, and it's all handled in one scene where it's like what you said. She just has her suit, she shoots her way through, they blow up the ship, and then they're laughing. Okay, great. It's not riveting stuff. Why is it spread across... like, this entire story that they're going through is spread across like 4 episodes. Why? Well, like, Bobby is an enigma to me because I can see the potential of the character. The actress is great. She has gelled with me at times, but I keep coming back to this thing of they tell Bobby's story and go through her character in the most agonizingly annoying and slow ways possible to now where I'm just like, I don't give a shit. What a waste.
They've milked it. They've just milked it dry.
You have not been a huge Bobby fan, but talk to us a bit about her in this episode, what we've been given, and just touch base with your opinions on the character thus far.
It's just bullshit. I don't have anything to say about it because it just feels like it's padding time. We need something for these characters to be doing so that they're in this place later. So we're getting this now. And I just don't care.
What makes it worse is Alex did not or has not been able to be that vibrant character that boosts the storyline. Instead, he's been muted by this. Everything on Mars, where he got to interact with not just Bobby, but his family and the society itself, and the military figures that they're investigating, much better. But when it's just him and Bobby, he's so dull now as a character. I was thinking that, you know, them as a duo would bring out great stuff within each other, but instead it's just Alex is just running around doing little flips in space. Okay.
Woo!
Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, from an artistic standpoint, there's not much gained. This is just we have to get them from A to B, but A to B goes across 4 episodes agonizingly for some reason. And again, crack it open a bit more, Rachel. Like, why do they do this with Bobby in particular? For us.
I don't know. I really don't know why they keep on doing this. Where it's just like, oh, she needs to be here at this point. So we're going to have her throughout this whole season and have really obvious things set up, and then they just happen to her. And it's so frustrating and boring.
Is she a character that's too OP? Too strong, too powerful, too skilled? To function as one that's tangible and realistic? Because I'm not going to say entertaining, because hey, strong, badass, kick-ass characters can be very entertaining, and I don't always need them to be deeper. But in a series with characters that are supremely deep, I do question if Bobby, being this badass space marine who a majority of the time her storylines are built around some bizarre or epic or cool or strange or ham-fisted action set piece, hampers the character, because all I got out of this was the writers patting themselves on the back for Bobby trying to hold the 2 ships together with her bare hands.
You're like, she's so cool.
Remember when we met her and she did
She's so cool.
Remember when we met her and she did the arm wrestling against the robot thing and destroyed it with just her bare hands? Now imagine her in a big mech suit thingy doing it with 2 ships holding them together. That's so awesome. It's so cool. Here's how I describe it. It's so Michael Burnham. And if I'm saying that, it's not a great thing to be saying.
It's not a favorable comparison for you to make. She's just too competent. She's mentally and emotionally fucked, but she'll get the job done.
There's just not a lot of ways to make, and she just punches her way out, that's meaningful. Where do they go from here? The ship's fine, so they just drive off and give Christian the message. That's it.
Yeah, they get the power. I wasn't even paying attention to how they did that because I didn't care.
I don't know.
I'm like, they did a thing.
They
Alex stole something off there.
No, he put a bomb on there, or he put a thing that exploded. They must have another core. I don't. The thing is, it should not matter too much, but there's nothing much else to grab onto.
I'll give a favorable comparison to Michael Burnham for a different plot, though.
That's impossible, but go ahead.
We see Michael Burnham cry and have puffy eyes so much in that show, so much in Discovery.
I never noticed.
And I never believed that there was emotional turmoil behind those physical consequences, right? But seeing Avasalara look fucking broken and puffy-eyed and like her whole face looked disheveled and her eyes are glassy and
she had to put herself together.
Yeah.
And she still couldn't. She was trembling. She was shaking. She couldn't keep that composure for once.
She embodied that. And you didn't need to watch the tears stream down her face to know that.
We're not used to seeing this character in such a state of vulnerability. Other ones, yes, we are, like Naomi. We're used to seeing her in such high emotion, and even Bobby at some points, but Christian not as much. So it hits harder, especially because we're 5 seasons in and we've seen her have to face some real horrors, literal end of the world stuff, but now that she's lost her husband, and she knows that to be the case, but is still kind of going
Won't
along
accept
with
it.
the hope that
Yeah.
it's not true.
That Delenn attitude of he's not dead till I see a body.
Yeah, that's a great pull there, because she's on Luna. She's trying to contact her husband. No response. You know who did make it, though?
Her daughter and her grandchildren.
Is it the same grandchild? No, it isn't. Whatever happened to that grandchild? Because that grandchild that we used to know, grandson number 1, that was his name. He never got a name, by the way. In season 1, was the son of her son that died. At least that's how it was demonstrated in season 1. If we've gotten that wrong, I don't care, because that's how it felt in season 1. But Ashanti, she made it. Do you think we'll see her? They've made a point of like showing her and talking about her, and that she survived.
Yeah,
so
they're saying that
we've got to have her come back.
They're all on a shuttle up to Luna. So I think we might.
Why didn't they have this character in the show earlier? If they wanted to pull this card. We've said this before, and listeners out there, give us evidence. We get told, no, Ashanti's been mentioned before in the show, and we ask, oh, when? And then just met with, it must have been brought up in these conversations. Okay, can you tell me, can you give me the line? Oh, I couldn't find it in that conversation. Must have been another one in season 1 or season 2. I feel like it's a case of it's in the book, and this character just is transplanted into the show, but it's weird to 5 seasons in be like, the woman who's solely defined by having lost her child also has another child who also has children, and it's just a strange aspect of the narrative. But it's not all about Ashanti. In fact, none of it's about Ashanti. She just is here too, by the way. But what is going on with Christian, Rachel, other than mourning the obvious loss of her husband?
As we predicted, some low-rung minister is now in charge of Earth. A transport minister.
Such a dweeb.
And he knows that he's a dweeb, and he knows that he's a nerd. And I appreciate that so much. I love a man who knows himself. And he's just like, Avaslara, I need you in my cabinet. Please help me.
I joined not because I care about politics, but because I thought I could do a better job. I never expected that I would be flung into a position like this, and none of us would be here if it was not for you. It's an acknowledgement of her position and her, willingness to do the right thing. And so he brings her into his, new group. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season he abdicates and she becomes Secretary General in some way, shape, or form, or by the end of the show at least. I gotta praise, The Expanse is really great at these side characters, maybe even one-and-doners. I don't know if we'll see this man again. They're really good at casting. This actor, I'm not familiar with him deeply. He looks perfect, he sounds perfect, and what I really just am so thankful of is they found the right balance of someone who's clearly out of their depth, out of their element, someone who, as communicated, is not wanting of this, but he's not a buffoon. He's not an idiot. He doesn't come across as a joke.
He's not going to be incompetent. He's
not presented as so meek or bumbling or oafish that it's just you get it and go, oh, okay, we've got a dum-dum in charge. Can't wait for Christian to girl boss it up.
The only reason I got into Parliament is because I thought the person running the local transit authority was an idiot, and I thought I could do a much better job. And I won his seat. We were only able to beat back the attack because of you. I'd like you to join my provisional cabinet.
Although Christian is a very small player here, we only really get that one sequence, it does ring out through the rest of the episode because we see characters having to struggle with leadership or how they perform their role as a leader, that that the balance between the personal life and the work life, the leadership. And we have Drummer. She's still reeling from the loss of Ashford and her responsibilities, her regrets in those
And
decisions.
Fred.
And Fred Johnson, both men that she left behind because she didn't want to play it their way. And maybe that wasn't the right decision to make, or maybe it was. But we see that she is struggling with that, but her crew is aware of her emotionality. And I really did like the cut to, this woman who is the closest one to her talking to someone else that we've seen, but we don't really know who they are, talking about how they will have to manage Drummer. They have to be cautious and guide her, and if push comes to shove, they'll have to take the reins if need be. What did you get out of that conversation, considering this is two fairly new characters we don't know much about, having to go through the inner workings of one of our leads who we care about?
Yeah, and it felt like, I like that they did this with them like kind of half naked, because it feels oddly vulnerable to see them going behind Drummer's back in this way, and odd, like intimate as well.
It's not played as a betrayal or sinister on their part. It is of honest concern. And now we have to see her
manage another egotistical dickhead,
but one that will most likely never back down. But we have to see her play nice. We have to see her grit her teeth.
We see her. It's a different challenge that she's facing.
It was a wonderful thing, wasn't it? To have Marco and Drummer have a pissing match against each other and just flex and show off and peacock and domineer and make these jabs and quips and just throw these insults at one another. What, no throne? Oh no, it's a war room. Oh, really? It's a war room? How's that war going? Well, we've won. Oh, did they surrender? Did they say that you won? Oh, I didn't hear that. I must admit I haven't been paying attention to the news lately. Just fire. This is those quips that they used to give Christian, by the way, and they've kind of ported them over to Drummer nowadays. I've noticed that. Drummer's been getting more of these little quippy things than Christian has in a while, so keeping an eye on it.
They're summoned by Marco, and they find out that he has the Martian ships, which is delightful. For the line of that random crew person, I think it's the same one who's just like, oh, it's not actually a choice. He's just like, so much for shooting our way out of this. But Marco is offering Drummer and Drummer's faction a seat at the table as part of the Free Army, basically, right?
Part of his Free Navy, his soon-to-be OPA. He's going to unite them all. He's going to make them join as one and lead into a new frontier, new world where the Belters are joined, are united, are together. So why would you not come join me?
And Drummer doesn't buy his bullshit. But she also knows that there is truth to them not having a choice. It's the illusion of choice. Because they can't side with Earth. It's just not a realistic possibility for them.
He's backed them into a corner now. Now he has started a war, but I liked his attitude of there was already a war. They were just killing us slowly so you didn't notice.
That was a good line. Marco does get good lines.
Marco is, again, a very captivating figure because he is a talker. But he's not just a talker. He's a man of action. He backs up what he says. For the most part, not always. Especially in this episode, there's some moments where he doesn't back up what he says he wants to do, but he answers all their questions. What about the food? We have to get food from Earth. Well, wouldn't you know it? I have a way of fixing that.
For that.
It will be a bit tough for those first few years, but that will strengthen us. That will make us better. And then by the time we get those ag domes working, we'll have more food than Earth could ever produce. We'll be better than that. Again, simplifying things, rounding off the edges there so that it's a palatable answer. And he has that for pretty much everything that Drummer and her crew, her faction, have to say against his way of things, like with the whole back and forth about how he has started this conflict that's going to make things worse. Well, it was already here. I've just made sure that we all know where we are now and that we will put them in their place. I have a plan. I've done something. I've been capable of something that we've had so many other people promise to do, but they've never dreamed big enough. They've never achieved the dream. So why are you against me on this? And with that all said and done, it does sway people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, members of her crew are just like, well, I'm on board now.
Not all of them are just on board because they genuinely believe. That's the thing I appreciate as well.
It's not that simple.
There's ones doing it out of fear. There's ones doing it out of because there is no other choice. There's ones who believe, well, if I'm going to make a side, I might as well choose the guy who's doing the mass murders so he doesn't mass murder me. I'm sure I'll be just fine.
Stand up, I won't be a target.
And then they came for me. We have been very much a fan of the OPA/Belter side of the Expanse because of these type of flourishes in the writing, the acknowledgement that there is nuance to these type of groups, to these type of conflicts. No group is a
monolith.
No, agree, yeah. And that's what Marco wants, though. Marco wants them to be one big thing that all agrees with his stance. So he's going to unite all of these hundreds of different little factions together and make a wonderful thing. And with Drummer, she has to agree. She has to bite the bullet and join the Free Navy.
Line.
Because there's no choice. What do you feel about that stance of there is no choice other than to join the Free Navy?
It fits. It makes sense in the world. And again, it puts Drummer in the position to assist with the downfall of Marco as well. Like, she needs to be on the inside to help bring him down. That's my feeling anyway.
But when you broaden it out to, the real world, say, or when you look at a piece of media like this that's really grappling with these type of concepts, how do you feel about it? Where do you land on this thing? Because they're basically saying, like, well, under an oppressive system, there is no choice, so you might as well join the oppressive totalitarian system or the terrorist system or the mass murdering party.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you are just a victim of it. You are going to be crushed under its heel. So there's no reason to stand up because there's no choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, I'll join the Nazi party, but okay, I'll go to some meeting. Okay, I'll do.
I mean, in this series, though, what do you think its stance is on that overall? Because it's not giving you any easy outs or answers within this episode.
No. So much of The Expanse has characters doing the best that they can, not the right thing to do. Because the right thing to do would be the wrong thing.
The title really calls into all of this with tribes. Amos talks about it later, but I just want to hearken to it now of civilization keeps us civil, and Marco is all about destroying the civilizations that are in place, because the argument is a fair one that it's this oppressive, nightmarish colonialist system that harms those out there that don't benefit the hierarchy. It's a fair reason. Yes, it's a very fair and understandable point. And yet you don't agree, like you don't side with him because he's a mass murderer. He's clearly egotistical. He's driven by himself. He's not willing to make sacrifices that would not benefit him personally. Like he's a contradiction in terms in a lot of ways, but it's about that tribes thing of like, well, you know, he's forming his tribe of people, and they're going to dictate things.
You killed him, and you killed Fred.
They fought and lost and died because they betrayed all Belters to do the Inner's bidding. Which you would not.
I'm beginning to regret my decision.
Every season, we love Naomi.
I'm so glad they don't space her.
Yeah. Philip saves her life. Again.
He has a kind heart, that
and
boy.
And Marco was annoyed and surprised. Again.
Well, Marco makes a fatal mistake. Makes a very fatal mistake here.
Mm-hmm.
He allows her to live after saying and showing off aloud that he wants her dead and was willing to space her.
Was willing to get somebody else to do it.
Well, that's the thing. He made it seem like he would do it and then was challenged. You do it. And then he sidestepped it. That's what I mean.
He wanted to get Philip to do it.
But he didn't actually expect it to happen. Like, that's the thing at the end of the day. It was like, the woman walked up to him and said, like, would you actually have done it? No, of course. Like, he gives that reaction of, no, obviously not.
He
wouldn't have done it.
He wouldn't have done it. He would have gotten somebody else to do it. But, I don't know. Like, I took it as he's still unwilling to kill Naomi himself.
Oh, yes.
But he knows that she's a danger and should be killed.
Uh-huh.
But it's also that he wants that control back over Philip. And if he kills Naomi, her pull on him will still exist. Because it'll cause a bigger rift between him and his son.
Well, it's that thing of if I make him do it, then he's truly loyal to me. He has obeyed me. He is one. He has the determination that I need of him. But what I mean by the weakness is, Marco does this big song and dance in front of all of his crew in this moment. But what he shows at the end of the day is he's willing to back off on that. He says Naomi has to die. She's a traitor to our people. He lists all of these very valid reasons why they should kill her. And then one of his own crew calls out that he's unwilling to do it. You do it. If you want it done, I want to see you do it. And then he plays Mr. Nice and says, well, Philip, do you want to do it? No, you don't want to do it? Then, my son has a kind heart. Oh. To the point in which a member of his crew, a part of that original family, says, hey, if you really wanted it done, you could just ask me. You know that. But he doesn't actually want it done.
No.
He just wants to
He needs to say that because of A, B, and C.
He's all about domination, all about being in control, all about making sure everyone knows that he's the top dog. But to do that, you do show your weaknesses at times. You do show your vulnerabilities. And I think he does here. Like in this episode, he does that thing again that I like about the performance, in which he puts on the different personas. He does the I'm in control, I'm very calm, level-headed, I'm a wise leader, to that kind of frothing at the mouth, angry, I can't help but show off. Oh, I'm so proud of myself. Oh, I'm getting a kick out of this. I'm just getting off on being in charge, to upset father again. Like, he keeps being such an upset dad.
Yeah.
Marco, as a father, would you rate him out of 10? How good of a dad is he? Like a 9?
-5?
No. Why would you say that? He just cares about Philip's loyalties and like how he's going to help the belt and make sure
Why
that he
don't
doesn't
you
get
tell the
contaminated.
Yumlings what my reaction was when Naomi says he wouldn't die for you, but he would he would let you die. He would send you to his death, but he wouldn't die for you.
Oh,
What did I say?
Your reaction was, well, of course, Philip. You're only realizing that now. It's like, well, yes, because he shuts off the audio in Naomi's cell because there's too much to take in. Yet he knows in some way.
He knows enough. He realizes that is the truth on some level, but he's not fully willing to accept it. But he is willing to talk to his mother.
And Marco is listening. He can't help himself. He really struggles to put it on mute when he has to do something else that's actually important. He just needs to keep tabs on her. And yet throughout the entire episode, he's insisting like, hey, I didn't choose for her to be here. It was a surprise to me. Like, I'm shocked too. Like, oh man, like this really ruffles my feathers too, guys. But he loves it. He loves having her here. He loves just torturing her in his own pathetic way. And we learn more about Philip. Not only do we get more of Philip himself, but we again touch base.
He's so dumb. He's so dumb. The way that he just completely is a buffoon when Drummer baits him into revealing that Naomi's on the ship.
that was a good little play from Drummer, huh? She did a good job.
Like, Marco's just like, ugh.
That's a story for another time. So Philip's dumb in your eyes. That's how you would describe him?
Yeah, like they're really playing out that he's just a boy. He's just a boy. He's dumb. He's innocent. He's naive. He's just a boy.
And how do you react to that? Do you buy that? Do you?
Well, I'm mocking it with my choice of tone. So I thought that was an indicator.
So it's not a valid way to approach this character in your eyes?
You know, they just can't undo the casting. I'm sorry. But he's not a boy. He's a man. Like, is he a brainwashed, manipulated man? Yes.
But he's a 26-year-old looking guy. Yeah. It's. I'm sorry. Our Yumlings keep trying to be like, well, actually, guys, like, don't get too hungry. No, it's sorry. It's hard not to get past how close in age he looks to the people playing his parents. I'm sorry. It's just the truth of it. It's distracting. It's forever distracting. I can't help but keep thinking, what if an actual 14-year-old played this role? We've had children in the show before, and they did great jobs. Like May, she was a good character. Katoa, he was a good character. Like, they weren't the deepest, but they were played well. I bought them. They were children. It made me feel things when they were in peril, because there is something about seeing a fresh-faced actual child in horrific situations. Like, remember when Katoa had dismantled a guy?
Yeah.
Remember how it ended with that? Now imagine if that kid, or someone around his age, was Philip. It would change how you would feel about him in a lot of ways, because I think on paper, a lot of what's going on with Philip is the right approach, is interesting. I don't mock it per se. I like the conversation that she has in which Naomi says to him what I've been saying, which is, you have killed millions of innocent people. You can't just walk away from that. You can't just wash that off and say it's okay. It's not. It's something reprehensible, something unforgivable.
And one day you will have to reckon with it. And we had that conversation about Philip at the end of last episode, I'm pretty sure.
And is he someone that could even face forgiveness and redemption because of where he has started from? And the series is saying, we're not sure. Naomi isn't saying that he can. She's just saying, you will one day recognize that you have been made into this because your father is a narcissist. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about your well-being. He only wants to use you. He wants to use you to make himself feel better. He wants to use you to make himself more powerful. He doesn't give a fuck about your soul. And that discussion there is much better than, oh, he's just a boy. He doesn't really know what he's gotten himself into. Oh, he's just a poor indoctrinated little war boy. Oh, boo-hoo. I think they've handled it with a lot more maturity and depth than I was initially giving it credit for, or I was worried that they weren't going to do. I still think it's an interesting, like mirror to Diogo, how that character was handled and how Philip has been handled, in which they're very similar journeys, but different executions and different extents. Like, Diogo did far less harm to the universe, and yet we loathed him more because he was a dickhead teenage boy. And Philip is, you say dumb, I agree, but I say like rudderless. He doesn't seem like he's even that committed to the Marco dream. He's just parroting back what he's heard.
Yeah, like he has such limited agency. And he doesn't seem to know how little control over his own life he has.
And does that make him better or worse?
It makes him interesting in a new way. Like, we haven't had a character like that in The Expanse. Everybody's always been fighting for control over their own lives or over the galaxy. And Philip doesn't even know the extent to which he's being controlled, but that's slowly awakening.
He is willing to listen. That's where the growth is. He's spending the time with Naomi. He wants Naomi to stay because he wants to have the perfect family. He wants the mother and the father. But as he spends time with the mother, he's learning and hearing about different ways of things, different points of view.
And you will realize what he's done to you.
He made me a fighter. He loves me.
He loves himself.
But you don't know anything about him.
I know he wouldn't die for you. But he would let you die for him.
This is just a very quick thing. But it was during one of those scenes where I was like really appreciating the sound design of this episode in particular. Like, it felt like they were paying attention to details of like levels and atmospheric noise.
I was noticing a lot of the sound mixing and music choices in the episode too.
I was also thinking of that when Amos and Peaches are in the hut and the wind is howling. That was another where I was like, they're paying attention and really building up the atmosphere with all of the tools at their disposal.
It's a thing that can be easily forgotten and overlooked and unappreciated, how important sound is, how important ambience is.
When they're in Marco's war room, you can see, you can hear the noises of the boots and the shoes and the helmets and people at their stations.
And the computer humming and the ship noise, because that's a thing, ship noise, yeah. And when we're on Earth, the devastated Earth that's, been hit by these asteroids, and we're with Amos and we're with Clarissa and they're crunching through the snow, although you can tell it's cold because it's snow and the cold breath and whatnot, and the actors are doing their shivering acting, very nice. The sound design really did help with a lot of it too, of just like this eerie silence in the air of it all, that again gave the sense of we've now entered the apocalypse or post-apocalyptic kind of Earth setting, in which every time we kind of cut over to Earth, it feels stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because we just cut away from space.
Yeah.
Like outer space feels more lively than Earth does now.
Uh-huh.
Earth has gone from a purgatory, because that's what it was before, like this weird purgatory,
hell.
to now like a frozen over hellscape. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And we have Peaches, we have Amos, the Wonder Team.
Yep.
A tribe of two.
They're got UN flags as jackets.
As their little shock blankets.
Yep. And I found that weirdly adorable in a way. That it's just such a beautiful symbol that the world is crumbled.
And she has to hide her prison uniform, or else she could get in a lot of trouble. They're not even going to take prisoners. They'll most likely just shoot you for efficiency. Well, I don't want to get shot either. I don't want that to happen.
I don't want to go back to prison. I don't want to be shot. So I guess we're on the run.
Where they have to run off to. Where are the places they can go?
And Amos doesn't trust the seemingly lovely man.
Who's camping?
Like, share my fire, have some booze.
Nice jacket.
Yep.
Nice jacket. Just rubs arms. Ooh, nice jacket there. Warming himself up on the fire. Nice jacket. Oh boy, I would love a jacket like that. Amos is like, all right, we're leaving.
Yep. It's just like, yeah, no, nah, I'm done.
I appreciate. I fucking love that. It reminded me of Event Horizon, in which Lawrence Fishburne sees the horrific footage of the previous crew, closes his laptop. He's like, we're leaving. That's Amos. He sees fucking creepy guy at fire acting strangely. We're leaving. It's like, thank you, Amos.
Like, on the face of it, it's just like he's being very hospitable
and giving us important exposition to help us later. But we're leaving because he's creepy. He's overtly creepy, and I salute you, Amos, for having skills that are very obvious, but writers refuse to use them because it's much more fun to do bullshit drama like this.
Yep.
If it was season 4,
we don't know how. Like they very slowly strip that dead man in the woods, and they don't know how he died, so they have an extra reason to be suspicious.
They're heading to Baltimore. That's their big plan.
That's their plan. They kill a doomsday prepper to get his shit. And Amos is like, well, yeah, we needed the shit. And then Clarissa's just like,
murder's bad.
Yeah, but normal, like good normal people wouldn't have considered that. And he's like, oh yeah, Holden wouldn't have let me do this.
I need to go back home. We need to leave.
I need to be back with my crew. Like, he knows that he's been away too long. And I loved that was how the episode ended. That was the cliffhanger.
It's a reminder that what we've seen Amos doing since he's left is operate on his very misjudged autopilot reactionary style. He's regressed in a way, because when he flew over, he immediately goaded people into fights and hurt them. And we see him in this episode. He's clueless to the fact that, going back to Baltimore will cause problems. You said that. He's not welcome in Baltimore, but Amos is like, shit's gone down. They'll let me back in. It'll be fine. I know people. They like me. It's going to just be A-okay. And it's like, maybe it will. But the fact is, he hasn't got a single part of his brain that's thinking, maybe not. Maybe there'll be trouble there that I shouldn't get into. I'll go there anyway. Like, we don't really have those faculties in play at the moment with Amos. And that's where it kind of culminates at the end of the episode of like, I need other people to be my moral compass. And I don't have those at the moment. Like, you're helping me, and that's fine, but I have to help you because you're physically impaired right now. So, yeah, let's just go back to Baltimore. I'm sure that'll work out fine. Baltimore's fine, Rachel, by the way. As far as he knows, Baltimore's A-okay, and his friend, you think he's gonna welcome him back with open arms? Hey, Amos, buddy, welcome back, Timmy. Still got that mug, buddy?
That mug, you won't let go of that mug.
I've still got it in my hands. I've got Timmy's mug in my cold, dying hands. The main thrust of Peaches and Amos crossing the country is not to get to the brutal action at the end or her using her mods, but it's really about the characters connecting or failing to connect. They're different people. They've grown up differently. They've experienced the world differently. They're from Earth, but they're from different Earths in a way. She's a woman that was of a rich family, grew up with a silver spoon. She got to go on the field trips, and her family grew trees and have passions and hobbies, and she has that whole Schrodinger's father where, do I have a father? But the thing is, she did have a physical father. Like, he just wasn't a good father. Well, Amos is like, I never knew my father, so...
And I don't want to.
And I don't want to either, so there's no Schrodinger's thing for me here.
I really liked the final scene with the two of them in the little cabin. And, like, the way that he took her little poem that she was like saying in her sleep, and then the revelation of what it actually is, and how that undoes Amos in a very particular way, being reminded of what he doesn't have, and the danger of not being afraid.
There's so much going on between them in that final scene because she, throughout the episode, is weak. She's struggling to get by. He's constantly asking if she's okay. Are you doing okay? Well, it's because I keep wondering it. And she's okay, but not really okay. What she's going through is, yes, a sci-fi explanation for why she's physically in distress, but really it's the consequences of revenge. That's what is happening to her. And that little poem she has that she uses as a mantra, as a prayer, something to ground her, is really coming back to the monster she was willing to become for simple revenge. I'm not a monster because I'm afraid. I was a killer, but I kill, but I'm not a killer, because if I'm a killer, I'm a monster. And if I'm a monster, I'm not afraid. But the thing is, I'm afraid all of the time. I'm afraid of the fact that I enjoyed it. I'm afraid of the fact that I was really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But, to someone like you and I, that sounds like the justifications killers make.
Yeah.
That sounds like the reassurances murderers make. It sounds like Christopher Eccleston in Doctor Who having a dinner with a Slovene. Like it's that type of thing. But Clarissa is a lot more of at least in this episode, a lot more sympathetic because of the portrayal, the performance, and again, the physical vulnerability that she's been put through. Although this is after she goes Hulk mode on a guy and like rips him apart.
Oh, the POV. Oh,
It was great, wasn't it?
it was so.
It was a lot, wasn't it?
It was just, they all went all in, and it made me laugh because it was just like, oh.
You know what it made me think of? I didn't know I tuned into an episode of The X-Files. It felt like a very cold open to an X-Files type of shot where it's, oh no, some crazy monster lady is attacking this poor man in the snowy Alps, and Mulder and Scully have to trek through the snow, and they find out that it's like an abominable snowman who's mated with a woman, blah, 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 and it's actually the government's involved somehow, but it's also just a monster of the week. It's not a lore episode type of affair. And with the piece about Amos, though, his reaction to her poem and his general demeanor of her saying, well, we went out of our way, though. We went out of our way to murder. It was always going to end up with us killing this person or harming them to benefit ourselves. What happens if they were a good person? What happens if they did follow you?
What would we have done?
Would we have done something different?
We needed supplies.
We went out of our way to murder someone and take his stuff just because we needed it. It's not the kind of thing good people do. Not even bad people trying to live like good ones.
I really did love her exchange later in the episode about how she didn't think about the consequences of her mods. She didn't think about the consequences in general. She only thought about revenge. That's all she thought about. I think that sums up her character beautifully, and that instead of ending her character in season 3, in which she has a mini version of that arc and then she's willing to sacrifice herself and face time, I'm really excited to see how we get a whole season of follow-up of that, of like more of that.
It's not something that we thought we were going to get.
It's the beauty of how this series doesn't just always murder the antagonists, because the antagonists get the opportunity afforded to them to learn and to grow and to better themselves.
They're not
but we
necessarily
haven't seen
redeemed.
But not necessarily. No. Barely of them. None of them have been redeemed. Truly, like Ashford redeemed himself. He became a better person.
Often, what happens if antagonists stick around long enough and they see themselves become the hero,
especially antagonists who are Earthers and or people of power. Of prestige. So, like, Ashford, he was someone from the Belt who suffered, like, he was physically scarred from how terrible things were for him. He sung a song to his daughter to calm himself.
Yeah.
He had a reminder of what he lost.
A child, yeah.
He was someone who always had lost something. He was a villainous figure, but he changed for the better, and he became wiser. But with people like Erin Wright and her father, Mal, they get to live, they get to serve time, but will they learn anything? Probably not. But we get to see one of these villains learn something, and that's Clarissa.
Yeah.
We now see her get to actually go on that journey rather than assume that's going to happen because she made a noble sacrifice and or was willing to face up to her the consequences of her actions in the end of season 3. Now we have a whole season in which her and Amos are going to really have to like spin on this for a while, like really have to like muse on it. Yeah.
Do you think that in any way Amos is kind of jealous or just confused by the fact that Clarissa faces physical consequences for her outbursts with her mods? Because Amos is very much capable of doing those same sort of things, but since he isn't fueled by mods, he doesn't have any hangover from it. And he's like remembering that he should have a sort of moral hangover from doing these bad things.
What my read is, and we are still in the early days of this relationship, of this bond, is Amos is encountering something he hasn't really done in the show truly, which is pity and or sympathy for someone.
Yeah.
He's admired people. He's gravitated towards people. He's emulated people. But I think he's at this point now where he is further along the journey than someone else. Clarissa is behind him in a lot of the journey, and he can actually help her for a change, where the dynamic is the other way around. This isn't Anna, who's like,
No.
she's already where she needs to be.
Yeah.
Amos is just a nice like grounding thing for her, but Amos isn't truly improving Anna. Anna's already there. She's improving him. At this point, I think Clarissa is someone who he's never encountered truly in the series, which is someone that he feels sorry for. I think with Wei last season, there was a tinge of that. Like his romance there, and he kind of felt sorry for her, or kind of felt like she doesn't understand that you don't have to be like this. But it's much more in focus with Clarissa, at least with the handful of episodes we've seen and the banter that they've had. And again, it's what I really loved about this episode is, although what they get up to isn't the most groundbreaking thing of all time, they just walk from one place to another, encounter some very easy done exposition dumps and or, oh, I found a body that has these things that help me. None of that really gets in the way for me, because it's just an avenue to allow these characters to open up and allow us, the audience, you and I, to start to have these thoughts in our mind of like, what is Amos's thoughts on this other character? What are our thoughts on this new character? How does she react to Amos? I like that her reaction to Amos a lot is bemusement. She's kind of just like, interesting. Okay, that's a way to go about it. That's
Like,
something.
oh, okay, well, that's what we're doing. Okay.
Now, on our rating system, which is impervious and has no flaws, Yum is bad and Yum Yum is good. No half measures, no half yums, no in-betweens, no exteriors, no cheating.
Yeah.
What would you rate Tribes?
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's a good episode. It's a solid episode. It moves everything forward. I was engaged with the majority of things, the major exception being Alex and Bobby. I'm invested in continuing.
Why is it a Yum Yum when at the beginning your description of your thoughts on it seemed very
Well, I said that it was
half-hearted and
growing
kinda-
on me the more I thought about it. And discussing it continued that.
I was just wondering if there was a specific thing of that growth that kind of tips it over in a more fond way for you, or something that lingers. Because
I think it's also because I will appreciate it more in retrospect, and I know that because it was a slower episode and it took its time with our characters.
I am also going to give this a Yum Yum.
Yum yum.
It's quite high in my mind for this season because, again, I like the ones that kind of get these cogs in my brain turning. But who knows, maybe the next episode will get more things buzzing, or will we go back and have to suffer through who knows what the quality of the episode is, because we haven't seen it. We don't know the rating. We don't know the plot.
Is it sticking with the pattern of the majority of season 5 and is a one-word title?
It is a one-word title, and forgive my mispronunciation because I don't speak the language of the Belter Loader. It is Oideng, which I looked it up. It's goodbye. It's goodbye in the Belter language, I'm pretty sure. If I'm mistaken, I'm sure you'll tell me.
It's not going to be goodbye to Marco.
Imagine if it is.
Goodbye to Earth, in a way, maybe.
You know what's something I noticed in this episode, just because you said goodbye to Marco, is I noticed that Philip had the Belter neck tattoo. Like, the classic, Belter tattoos. He doesn't, Marco? Not that we haven't seen him, without, we haven't seen a lot of skin on him, but he hasn't got any face tattoos or neck tattoos that I've noticed. Everyone else does. Like, everyone's tattooed up except for Marco.
Mm.
And yet he's all about, I'm all Belter.
He wants to be the symbol of the belt, and he isn't showing that the way that most belters do.
He's got a pretty face. He can't ruin that. And I'm not even joking. I do wonder if he's so vain, he wouldn't do it. It's just something I noticed. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've revealed a tattoo or something, but it's not something on his face or neck that's prominent like the other characters do. But in our next episode, what do you think will be happening? It's episode 7. So we're nearing the ending point, in those final few episodes.
I think Holden's going to make some progress towards Naomi.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get I thought we were going to get more Holden in this episode. But I think we'll get a little check-in. I think Monica will be amazing. I think we're going to get the next step towards Philip realizing that his father's an asshole. And maybe a little bit of Avasalara trying to, get in touch with Bobby or respond to the message.
I think we're going to have a plot involving Drummer being disrupted in her day-to-day jobs because she has one of Marco's people on board, because that was something that happened in the episode.
Yeah, they did trade.
I don't like calling them tributes, and proceeds to basically say, here's my tribute. And she's like, we call them family. He's like, oh, yeah, family to me, so. And it was, he's my family.
He's my family.
He's my literal family. I think we're going to have, again, the Naomi is going to sway Philip a bit more with the stuff that she's telling, and whether Drummer and Naomi will get in contact in any way, because we have to have Holden figure out where Naomi is at some point, because he's going after the blue goo, which is still on its way to Marco.
Yeah.
It hasn't reached anywhere.
And
so
Marco is pissed.
He's really not happy about that. He's really unimpressed.
And I feel like he went out of his way to say that it wasn't about Holden, but it was also kind of about Holden.
I don't know what we're doing with Bobby and Alex. I genuinely don't know. Because
I don't care.
Most characters now, I say most, Drummer knows that Marco has Martian ships. She knows.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll tell Christian, and Christian's going to rile up Earth some more about it. Something that bothers me, maybe it's not that important because they have Mars in their pocket, but they keep talking about Earth will go to war with us. They also did attack Mars.
Yeah.
They keep being oh, and Mars got bombed too, but it's bombing. It's just a normal bomb, not an asteroid.
Yeah.
We didn't asteroid them. We could have, but we didn't.
It feels a little bit like Earth is synonymous with the inners.
Earth are the ones that started the oppression in the first place. In a weird way, Mars is also a victim of it, but they're also assholes. I genuinely don't know what they're doing with Bobby and Alex, and I'm not really engaged enough to care.
No.
I think that a big plot element of the next episode obviously has to be Marco exercising his powers. And will he obtain the blue goo? Will he not? That's the thing that is on my mind. But in terms of just general overview of predictions or just things that have been bubbling in my mind, Monica being a part of the crew, what will that bring? What does that actually offer to the table other than we like her as a character? What will that be function-wise? Her having a camera eyeball? But they've used that already throughout the season.
Yeah, and her reporting the story, I think, is going to be important too.
I think her being on the case is going to really fuck up Marco's campaign within the belt, because she's going to reveal certain things about him that will be unflattering. But I think from just a script point of view, Monica serves the function of something that would be lacking, which is an audience surrogate. Because the Rocinante is filled to the brim with just hardened badasses. So having a wet blanket, nervous Nelly, or like a person who's just a straight shooter who's just like, what the hell? And they have to explain to her what's going on. I think she's going to serve that function, maybe be a bit of a comedic relief. Is there any big predictions on The Expanse that you have after this episode? Anything for the rest of the season or the future of the show? What about Baltimore? Do you think that he'll actually connect in Baltimore? Or do you think he's going to get in trouble, Amos and Peaches?
I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to make it to Baltimore.
Do you think that they're going to get sidelined before getting there?
Yeah, maybe. That or they get picked up.
Do you think Clarissa's mods are going to do anything important in terms of...
Because they have been talking about them a lot.
And they showed them what they're capable of in this episode in a new way. We've seen her use them before, but in this one it was like super speed in a weird fun way. That was...
maybe.
Like, do you think it'll be like, oh, she saved the day again? Or, uh-oh, she fell asleep after her mods and now we're in trouble?
I think she's gonna die.
Oh, because of her mods? Or because of some accident?
I think that it's gonna be... I don't know. I just get the feeling that, like, she doesn't want to go back to prison. And there's no way that they're just gonna let her be free.
I think they're like a poison.
It's slowly killing her.
I think it's the case of the more I use them, the more the side effects of after using them is lethal. And the show will have to have her use them more. And so it's this tragic thing of Clarissa has to become the embodiment of the things that she hates to save the day, and it will literally kill her over time.
Yeah.
But as a person, she's getting better, you know? Like, it's that thing where she has to use the tools that she had for revenge.
Her life.
She has to slowly give over herself. Yeah. That, and look, honestly, I've given up this dream, but dream here at the end of the show, like, not the end episode, like, I want episodes of all of these characters as a crew. I want Bobby, I want Clarissa, I want Monica, I want all these people as like a found family on the Rocinante, flying around, having adventures.
With Alex's lasagna?
Quipping and having back and forths.
Naomi's...
have a body swap episode. You know, the classic sci-fi shenanigans when you have a big crew of mismatched people who are forced to be together.
I'm done.
Well, you can wrap us up.
Check out the description for the links to our social medias, which, if you just want to search and do things the hard way, they're under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. If you want to email us directly, that's yumyumpod@gmail.com. And we mentioned it at the top, and we'll mention it again, because we're really proud of what we do over there, which is Patreon, where you can support the podcast in exchange for a lot of content that comes out on a monthly basis, depending on what tier you sign up for. If you fork out that cash, you can get these Expanse episodes so far in advance.
Hell, by the time this comes out on the main feed, you could hear us talk about the finale of the show, probably, or who knows what else. Make sure to rate and review the podcast and share it around. It means a lot to us if you share the podcast around. Say to people, have you heard of this Yum Yum podcast? They're going through The Expanse for the first time, and they're getting a lot out of it. They love Havelock. Remember that character? He was so good in season 4. What's that, he wasn't in it? Oh, he's in the book? But surely he means a lot because of how they used him in the first season. Well, actually, Yum Yum Podcast likes to remind every listener, as much as possible, that no.
Well, we didn't get the Gaunt Belter because we just got drummers Fraction.
Fraction and her faction. You know what we did get instead, though? We didn't get Havelock. We didn't get the Gaunt Belter. We didn't get Bobby's loser boyfriend with the pancakes. But what we did get is Ashanti mentioned. Ashanti is the new Havelock. Our new... What the hell is this? Why did they do this punching bag character?
We know
I can't help myself.
Pancake boyfriend's safe.
Oh, I'm so glad he's safe.
Because he wasn't on Mars.
Yeah,
and he wasn't on Earth.
Oh, he's going to be in the finale. He's going to be serving them up pancakes as they play Johnny Cash. As they fly into a black hole and die.
I guess Ray Butts has ate his last pancake.